Welcome to the Bird Nerd Podcast. I'm your host, Austin Rowe. In the first episode of the podcast, I want to introduce myself a little and lay the groundwork for what I would like this podcast to be. I am the naturalist for Jefferson County Conservation, located in Fairfield, Iowa. I provide environmental education for the county through field trips with the schools, homeschool groups, toddler time events, and various public programs for many different age groups. I am also the Associate Director of Iowa Young Birders. We provide birding field trips for kids ages 8 to 18. We also work with libraries to provide programming and have had an awesome birding backpack project the last few years that provides birding backpacks to libraries for beginner birders, typically kids, to check out and dip their toes into the amazing world of birding. Before becoming a naturalist, I worked as a field technician in various places, but educating people about our natural world is where my true passion lies. I received a bachelor's in science in wildlife ecology and management from Kansas State University. There, I studied a wide variety of animal systems with coursework in mammalogy, ichthyology, plant systematics, and of course, ornithology. I worked as a lab technician in the Boyle Lab, where I assisted in the research of grassland songbird ecology. I also worked as a field technician at Konza Prairie. That gave me a hands-on experience in collecting scientific data and managing native habitats. Outside of Kansas State, in my summers, I worked as a field technician on multiple research projects. Some prairie-based, some forest-based, all focused on birds. Safe to say, I like birds and studying them. My current role allows me to create a passion for wildlife in others and hopefully inspire them to want to protect it in the same way that I do. I began the Bird Nerd newsletter in January of 2025 as a way to share my birding adventures with others. I have written birding blogs and co-hosted a birding podcast before and knew that having the extra motivation helps me to get out birding more. I started this year with the challenge of seeing 150 different bird species. This goal pushed the limit of how many species I had seen in Iowa previously. I had some bigger years while attending college in Kansas, but had yet to explore Iowa in the same way. I met this challenge by week 10 of writing the blog, right at the beginning of May. I then pushed my goal to see 175 birds, my previous highest year ever being 178. I thought this would really challenge my birding skills. I met that goal by week 13, end of May, and now currently sit at 210 species for the year, with just December left. Most of the fun migrants are gone by this time of the year, but there are still a few waterfowl species and winter eruptives that I am holding out for. Please let this be the year of the snowy owl. I recently decided to take the Bird Nerd newsletter and turn it into a podcast as well as a blog to try and reach more people. I have a great list of subscribers to the blog portion already, but I know that not everyone has time to sit and read 1,000 blog posts every day. With a podcast version, you can listen at your leisure. I also wanted a way to branch out in the topics that I discuss. So with the podcast, I plan to give birding updates from my birding adventures, news that I find from around the birding community, events that are happening locally, whether local to me or in other parts of the United States, identification tips and tricks that I use when identifying tricky birds, and interviews with real birders. A lot of birding podcasts that I listen to qualify their guests with research backgrounds or trips to exotic locations, but I believe that the best birds are the ones that are around us every day. So my plan is to interview average, everyday birders about what they are seeing in their own neck of the woods. I also believe that the Midwest is horribly misrepresented in the world of birding, and I want to shed a light on all the amazing birds that can be seen here. In Iowa alone, it is possible to see nearly half of the species of birds that are possible in the entire United States. Yet Iowa is not typically thought of as a birding hotspot. Yes, you may have to work a little harder to get some of those birds on your list, but the challenge makes it mean more sometimes. My ultimate goal is to spread the joy of birds and birding and to give a voice to the wonderful people that contribute their time to advancing the cause of birding in their own backyards, local patches, and areas that are not typically traveled. Birding is a hot topic right now, so let's help it stay in the spotlight a little longer by making it more accessible and helping those new to the sport. With that introduction, let's begin with our first topic. I sometimes use birding jargon without realizing it, and this can be confusing to someone that is new to the world of birding. For instance, I use the word eruptive in my introduction to describe a group of birds I have yet to see this year. Eruption is going to be my first topic of discussion because we're in the season where some eruptions begin to occur. This year is also promising to be a year of eruptions. The winter birding forecast set out by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology states that this winter looks to be a finchy one. Here in Iowa, that means we have a good chance at seeing pine siskins, redpolls, red and white-winged crossbills, and evening grosbeaks. I know that not all of those birds are finches, but they do tend to be clumped together whenever people are discussing winter finch eruptions. Now, what does that darn word eruption mean? Eruption means a sudden invasion or influx in population. These occur with many winter birds when there is a lack in food to the north and they begin to head south in large numbers. Already, if you followed along on the Bird Nerd newsletter blog, it has been an eruptive year for red-breasted nuthatches here in Iowa. At Jefferson County Park, we've had red-breasted nuthatches since the end of August. This signaled early on to me that we might have a good winter for non-typical birds. Red-breasted nuthatches are possible to see every year in Iowa, but not in the numbers that we are seeing them currently. Pine siskins are another bird that functions in this way. For instance, last year, I didn't see a single siskin, but the year before, I had them at the Nature Center feeder and my home feeder. They were just small flocks, nothing crazy, but they were there. There are other eruptive species that we rarely see in Iowa except during an eruption year. Redpolls, both species of crossbills, and evening grosbeaks are among this list. Snowy owls are also on this list. I have yet to see a snowy owl anywhere, let alone Iowa. I have, however, seen many white bags in fields that I thought were snowy owls. I'm hoping that this eruption season pushes one down my way. The unfortunate part of a species eruption is that it can also lead to many deaths of the species. When I was in Kansas, we had a snowy owl eruption. I wasn't able to chase a lot of the reports because I was busy with schoolwork and lab work and didn't have a four-wheel drive vehicle, but there were a couple that I came fairly close to seeing. What would happen a lot of the time when the owls get that far south, though, is that they've gone so long without food they may starve. They also take the risk of getting hit by vehicles. Snowy owls are used to hunting on long, flat stretches of the tundras for small rodents. Unfortunately, roads provide long, flat stretches that are typically lined with rodent habitat. This leads to a lot of owl vehicle incidents. But we're going to remain hopeful in this eruption season and focus on the wins. I look forward to exploring this eruption season and hearing what some of you are seeing. I'm always fascinated by the birds others see in different parts of the world. I want to thank you for listening and sharing the podcast and blog with someone you know that is interested in birds. If you would like to be interviewed on the Bird Nerd podcast, please send a short bio to aroephoto3@gmail.com. That's AROE photo, PHOTO, the number 3, @gmail.com. with the subject line birding interview, and I will try to reach out to you once interviews begin. If you have a topic that you think I should cover, use the subject line birding topics, and I will do my research and try my best to answer your questions. Any events that you think should be advertised, use the subject line birding events. Thank you for listening, and good birding.